All right, hello, everyone. Welcome to the fall 2024 edition of the ITS Friday Afternoon Seminar. I'm Susan Handy. I'm the instructor of record for this quarter, and I'm going to do a little bit of business for those of you who are registered in TTP 281 to get credit for the seminar. And then I'm going to turn it over to the wonderful people who have really interesting and important things to share with us today. So first order of business, we should take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been home of the Patwin people. Today, there are 3 federally recognized Patwin tribes, the Pitchell Dehe Band of Winton Indians of the Calusa Indian community, the Tletzel Dehe Winton Nation, and the Yocha Dehe Winton Nation. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this fabulous, wonderful, beautiful land that we are on. They've been committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands. Second order of business, we have a full slate of really wonderful, interesting, exciting speakers for you this quarter. So we look forward to seeing you here throughout these coming weeks. Okay, here's the real business for those of you enrolled in TTP 281. So you are expected to be here in person attending the seminar. What we ask you to do, in addition to this new thing we've got going with the clickers and the QR codes to make sure you're here, that's our way of taking attendance. The other thing we're asking you to do is come up with 3 questions for the speaker. Doesn't mean you have to ask the questions, but we want you to be thinking and engaged in the seminar. So everybody who's enrolled to get credit, not only do you have to do the clicker thing, but you have to submit your 3 questions via Canvas. Okay, and hopefully that's straightforward. It's just a little quiz you fill out there, so everything will be fine. Okay, and then of course we want you to be thoughtful, thankful, and courteous for the guest speakers. Most of the guest speakers are here volunteering their time to you. It's a gift to you of their time and their knowledge and their expertise. So please be courteous, be engaged, ask questions, appreciate what they are giving to you, and otherwise embrace this opportunity to hear from people doing work in this transportation field. All right, any business or questions? Okay, good. Then I'm going to turn things over to Sarah McCullough, who is the director of the Feminist Research Institute here on the UC Davis campus, who does really great, important work about, well, I love the phrase, asking different questions, helping all the rest of us think about the research we do and the kinds of questions we're asking in our research and the kinds of approaches we're taking to our research. She is also the director of the Environmental Justice Leaders Program, which is the subject of today's seminar. We will explain what that program is all about. It is a partnership between the Feminist Research Institute and ITS Davis, with a little bit of funding support from the National Center for Sustainable Transportation, which I direct. And I'm going to let Sarah explain what it's all about. And she's going to introduce our special guest today. Okay,
great.
Then I just have to figure out how to, let's see. Not sure. Okay. We have a couple of there, no, one more chair up here.
I'll do a little thing.
Okay.
Hey y'all, as Susan said, my name is Sarah Robioso McCullough, and what I really care about and what this program is part of is working towards what I like to call knowledge justice. Because one of the things that we don't often learn is that the history of the university as a very exclusive place that was not open to all people, like the legacies of that history aren't over. Like, we're still dealing with what I like to call like historical bias in the very structures of our research. And one of those ways that that happens is in terms of who is sort of considered an expert and who is not. Because the fact is, like, lived experience are expertise as well. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of expertise that we don't historically and in an ongoing way acknowledge in our university and our research, and that's a problem. It's perpetuated inequity, and it also makes our research results not as accurate, not as impactful. And so part of this program is designed to help create some connections so that as researchers, we can do research that the communities, across the state, across the country, around the world really need. This program, we bring a cohort this year. It's 6 folks. We have 3 folks here in person. 1 person will be presenting remotely, who work on the front lines of environmental justice. They work in communities or with organizations that work with communities, and frankly, it's like they know stuff that's going on that we don't. And so our hope through this program is that we will be able to create connections, to create a dialogue between researchers, between graduate students, and between those that really are our leaders in figuring out what kind of changes we need to have made. So I'm gonna let each of them introduce themselves and talk a bit about their work, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a lot of questions. And with that, I'll pass it on to Natalie.
You. Okay. I think the picture works. So yes, hi everyone. My name is Natalie Espinosa. I am an outreach and engagement program manager at the Energy Coalition. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are focused on helping communities or empowering communities to their clean energy future of today and tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to get started with the program that I'm currently running. This is the Healthy Stores Refrigeration Program. This program is administered by the County of Los Angeles, but funded by the California Department of Food and Agriculture. So I'll get into all of our partners in a minute, but basically the point of this program is to help our corner stores, liquor stores, and small markets located in Los Angeles County's food deserts have access to an energy efficient refrigerator so that they may provide some healthy California grown foods, minimally processed foods to the communities that they serve. So we see here a picture of one of our store owners, Frances. She owns the Picas Market right across from Dodger Stadium in Elysian Park. And she has been providing groceries to her community for a long time. She hasn't been able to do it efficiently. So as I mentioned, this was granted by the California Department of Food and Agriculture. What makes this program really exciting for us at the Energy Coalition is that we have many years since the 1970s been working on energy efficiency programs that are very specifically meant to achieve energy savings that can be pretty difficult. What is nice about this is that we're really trying to connect and provide access to disadvantaged communities to get healthy food while also not putting that energy burden on the store owners that have to run their businesses as well. And with that also comes education. We want to be able to provide education to communities so that they know that their stores are doing this kind of work. And that is where we work with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to provide some community partnership grant money as well. And then we are the implementers, and we work with Arca Recycling and our community-based partner with the Los Angeles Food Policy Council. And their main goal is also providing that educational material and working with us with one of their neighborhood market programs as well. So like I mentioned, this program is meant to serve low-income, low-access neighborhoods. We need them to accept EBT. Or the food assistance program, and there you have to have a willingness to stock their refrigerators with healthy food. We work on the low income, low access, making sure that eligibility is met by working through the USDA Food Access Research Atlas and taking a look at those maps to see which neighborhoods in Los Angeles County qualify for this program. And then we also work with CARB's Climate Investment Web Map to make sure that we are still working within those disadvantaged communities. From there, we did outreach with our community-based partners, word of mouth. We did get a local news spot after we did an event at Lupita's Market, which we showcased at the very beginning. This is Supervisor Hilda Solis. Her community really trusts her, so having her come out and say, give credence to this program, gave us an opportunity to get more folks reaching out to us, asking if they could get the refrigerators in their stores. And then very basically, we just pulled up the maps, started to take a look at the different streets that qualified for the program, and then sent our staff out to go talk to store owners and make it as easy as possible for them to participate in the program. So we were able to, in our first round, get 84 stores. This is the locations that they were located in throughout Los Angeles County. We had 141 new refrigeration units and 30 old refrigeration units were recycled in this process as well. So we've been granted now a second round, but as with state budget cuts, they affect everything. We were hoping to get 125 stores, and this time around, we're looking at about 50. So this is my outreach staff. We worked with SoCal REN, which is the Southern California Regional Energy Network, which is administered also by Los Angeles County, to work with their Green Path Career Fellows to go out, as well as the Climate Corps AmeriCorps Fellows, which is now called the Sustainability Corps, to work on getting to know our store owners and have that outreach and engagement part of this process. We have, like I mentioned, Lupita's Market. She reported seeing her energy bill be very impacted by this. And then we also had Community Food Bank in the San Fernando Valley experience really awesome savings. This owner, he would take old refrigerator units that no longer work at Ralph's and Vons and other places like that and try to make them work for his store to better serve the community, but we were able to take some of that burden off of him as well. And as I mentioned, we also did educational site visits and pop-up shops. We wanted to make sure the community knew that their store was a place for them to go to get their healthy foods. And so we did do some live cooking demonstrations, and we partnered with other groups as well to be able to provide them with those opportunities. Our fellows designed a cute little logo because everybody loves a sticker for their water bottle to make sure that people have that out there. And then we kind of went to our own employees and asked them for their best healthy recipes so we could provide a recipe booklet. And it's no good to have access to this and then not want to make those foods at the end of the day. And then we had some refrigeration tips and maintenance of the refrigerators that folks worked with us or could be working on that energy efficiency still as well. We were able to host 68 pop-ups. The one you see here is at Maravilla Meat Market in East LA. They were a wonderful partner. They were very excited to have us come. And we also had folks coming to us from Cal State LA to do an induction stove demonstration so that people could see about that technology being applicable in their home. And then we also had LA County's efforts for Delete the Divide to help low-income folks also get access to internet in their home. So really, everything is about partnership and being able to bring all of the things at the table so that our most impacted community members don't have to go searching for these things on their own all the time. So if we can continue to provide those things, that's what we try to do. Okay, so that was Healthy Stores Refrigeration Program. I also work as outreach and engagement lead for the Bassett Avocado Heights Advanced Energy Community. This project, okay, so I pulled my slides from different presentations that I've already done. This slide deck is in English and Spanish because I had to present this one in Spanish, so you can ignore the Spanish slide. But this project is an EPIC grant, CEC, California Energy Commission, EPIC grant funded project. In 2017, we worked with UCLA to collect the data and input from the Bassett Avocado Heights community to see if this was a project that they would like to happen there. In 2020, we began our outreach and engagement, which is a really fun year to start outreach and engagement when no one can be outside. So that's how we got started there. And then in 2024 now, we are working towards expanding our services, but also wrapping up our installations. So, I think I broke this. Not sure if I can do that. So this is our qualified area for the advanced homes. This is the neighborhood Bassett Avocado Heights. We have La Puente, we have West Covina, we have Rosemead, we have Whittier in certain areas. This is mostly unincorporated Los Angeles County. This is mostly a community that does not have access and information coming to it from a regular basis because they're not considered a city themselves. So our original study area was here, and that's way too small. So we had to expand to the blue area, and that is where we were able to get 33 homeowners to participate in the Advanced Homes project. I want to point out that there are 3 highways going through this entire community. Another thing that we don't have marked out here, but also the Quemetco battery recycling plant is located right here. It is the largest recycling plant west of the Mississippi. And so this community is consistently dealing with air pollution, air quality issues. Perfect. So far, we have been able to do 18 induction stoves, 20 heat pump water heaters, 50 tune-up services for existing water heaters, 34 solar installations, 18 energy assessments for the homes, and 19 battery installations. And I'll just share with you all now, the fun thing about California and where we're at is that so many of the companies that were partners with us have gone out of business with the way that the energy landscape has been going. So we have lost our battery installer, even though we've already signed up 34 homeowners with the solar. So we are currently working with them to get another installer. We will get them an installer. We are not going to leave our homeowners to have to figure this out for themselves. And we will be doing that moving forward. Additionally, we have the Basie Car Share Program. So this is where we're trying to invite the community to become a community center themselves in their homes. And folks are given the opportunity to rent an EV for 2, 3, or 4 months to see if this is something they'd be interested in having in their home. They would pay $100 a week to get this, but they would also get a free EV charger installed at their home, and they would earn 50 cents per mile driven in their EV for up to $300 per month. The thing here is that the EV charger would need to be available to their neighbors, basically. And so this is where we are trying to create an infrastructure for Basset Avocado Heights to have more EVs in their neighborhood as well. And then we're trying to move forward with Advanced Homes 2.0. We have had to reallocate funding, but this is really good because our homeowners are now going to be able to get a heating and cooling system, electric clothes dryer, and a smart thermostat on top of the solar battery storage, heat pump water heater, induction stove, and any other weatherization. It is a massive effort, but our participants really trust us, and we've gone in and spoken with them about how important this is for the state to see a project like this be successful. And so they're willing to work with us. One thing we've noticed though is that if you're trying to do this with a low-income community, to have solar on your roof, you're gonna have to have a new roof, and most likely you've not had a roof replacement in the last 10 years. So with that, we've had to make some really difficult decisions. And for us to be able to move forward with homeowners who need new roofs, we're asking them to commit to fully electrifying their home. If they're not interested in fully electrifying their home, then we'll do a partial electric home for them, where we're not going to give them solar, but we'll still give them that battery storage so that they can charge up their batteries during those non-peak hours as well. Start working from there. This is just the same thing. And then this is our eligibility. I just want to point out what California considers low income. 1 to 2 people cannot make over more than $40,000 a year, and they have to own their home. Just put that together in your brain for me, and recognize just how difficult it is to find these homeowners and to expect them to have a roof that is fully ready, to expect them to have every single part of their house fully permitted and ready to go with everything that we're asking them to install. We pivoted real quick from working with PTAs and young parents to going to the senior centers and where the elderly are hanging out, because that is who owns their home in Los Angeles County and is making $40,000 a year at this point. And we have fully expanded into all of the cities that Basset Avocado Heights neighborhoods touch: Baldwin Park, West Covina, El Monte, South El Monte, and the City of Industry. So we should be able to outreach to some more folks. And we've worked with different CBOs on our outreach. Day One is the name of one that's based out of Pasadena, Active San Gabriel Valley. And actually one of our outreach staff, their mom is now gonna get to participate in our program. So that's what makes this all worth it for me. So that's the Basset project. Very last thing, I've been talking forever. I'm also working with the Southern California Regional Energy Network on creating a community-based design collaborative. What we're looking to do here, okay, so this is a lot. SoCalRen covers around 13 counties. They cover all of the territory that Southern California Edison touches. And they are being asked by the California Public Utilities Commission to have this program where we are asking CBOs to let us know what kind of energy efficiency programs they would like to see in their communities. We have gone back and forth with them about how this is gonna work, and for a really long time, they were not interested in providing any compensation to the CBOs for participating. As of Wednesday, after some of my fellow cohort members wrote really nice emails that helped me prove that compensation is absolutely necessary when you're working with community-based organizations, we will now be providing stipends to those folks so that they can move forward with participating, to the collaborative. So thank you, Honey. But from there, we're trying to have folks from Ventura, Kern, Los Angeles, and San Bernardino counties come together and really just tell the Public Utilities Commission the types of energy efficiency programs that these communities need. My role is going to be making sure that we have mission alignment with everyone, that they have the right local presence and the capacity to participate, and that we can do this in a collaborative approach. This is a first of its kind for programs through the regional energy networks. I know I didn't go over all the context of what that means, but bringing everybody together and doing it in an equitable way is the most important part of making sure we create projects that are going to be actually impactful for disadvantaged and energy justice or energy environmental justice communities. Okay.
Next up, Rio.
Okay. Oh, yes, this one. Find out. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is Rio Oshas. We have a family-owned business. Its name is Raok. It's a Mayan Chi word, which means to love. And that's kind of the center of our work. So my wife and I run it. I always say our kids are involved, right? Because I mean, ultimately, we're having conversations with them. We're learning from them. We're growing from them. So with that said, it's also really convenient that Raok spells out race, ancestors, health, outdoors knowledge. And knowledge is a big base. But recently I was having a conversation with our 17-year-old, well, now she's 18. She just made it to UC Santa Cruz. So she just started school this week. Yay! So she said, she was talking about having it say roots instead. And so first I'm gonna talk about a little bit about my roots and how I got myself here to where I'm doing Raok. So I've been doing work, particularly in bicycle safety education since 2002. Yeah, so I'm almost gonna have 25 years of doing bicycle safety education. And back then we didn't have transportation equity, or like for anybody who's been in the transportation field that long, those things didn't exist back then that we knew of, but it was happening, right? It's not like it was just the names weren't there, the advocacy wasn't there. And that's actually how I started, was taking a troop. I was in Oakland, we were taking a troop of kids on bikes through all of Oakland, familiar with Oakland, like it was literally like, it felt like Mama Duck and a bunch of kids on bikes, you know? And through that, we got to literally experience the street with kids, which gave you a special element because now you're protected because you're the one in charge. And that ended up leading my advocacy so that when I moved back to LA in Echo Park, that was where I was born and raised. When I moved back there, I had this information. I knew LA was even more car-centric than the Bay Area, but we still wanted to run bike programs, and we did. We started a summer camp there with a few friends. And I also started working with Andres, who's another fellow with what was then called Multicultural Communities for Mobility, but now called People for Mobility Justice. And they told me at some point, they said, Rio, you're great at the bike safety education, but you can probably teach advocates because you are on the ground with the kids in the community. And I was like, I don't want to go to a bunch of boring meetings. That's quite literally how I felt. Because I was like, I just want to be on my bike, riding all the time and taking kids to adventures. Like that really was my attitude at that time. And they said, yeah, that's super important. And your voice then would be even more important because the kids can't get to those meetings. You know, they're not going to be able to make that odd 10 a.m. meeting. Can you start being an advocate for this? And with enough coaching, I did start becoming an advocate in city meetings and all that stuff, in regional planning meetings. And I started to learn more about all of that work that you know had been transpiring. And so for about the last decade, that's more of the work I've been doing. And then recently I decided to like take a leap of faith and go, hey, what about my family and I running a consultancy, a coaching, an education, a knowledge base, a strategizing group that can work together. So that's what RAO is. And I'm kind of taking all the years of experience. And so I say it illuminates the interdependence of race, which I'm toggling with the roots, with race, ancestors, health, outdoors, and knowledge to cultivate loving ecohood. So given that Sarah just talked about knowledge justice, I'm gonna start with a little bit of knowledge before I talk about the 3 branches of work that I do nowadays. And all of it is informed by all the works I've been doing for like the last 20 plus years in CBOs, in community. And I still do it today, except decided I didn't want my community work to be deliverable anymore because I was feeling exhausted from that nonprofit industrial complex, which is why I decided to do something a little bit different. And so now I still do community work, but it's free of grant deliverable reports to write. And I'm not forced to take pictures, so that feels good, you know, so I decided to do something else. So first, on the knowledge base, one of the things that I also did in community, and this was also not, this was unpaid, was when I moved back to Echo Park, I noticed massive displacement. There was anybody familiar with gang injunctions? Some people, one person, yeah, oh yeah, Oxnard, yeah, I know, we know people in Oxnard, yes. So yeah, gang injunctions are awful, they're not great at all, they're like a form of martial, people are familiar with martial law, right? Yes, like all these ridiculous like curfews and yeah. It's a form of that, without calling it that was imposed onto Echo Park when the new park was gonna, the new revamped park was gonna open. And we thought it was so wild because they were gonna, one example of a gang injunction or martial law was, if you're wearing a Dodgers shirt, you can be put in jail. This just happened in 2014, everybody. I'm not talking about 1950, I'm talking about 2014. And Youth Justice Coalition and a bunch of groups were like, this is insane, like this is super inappropriate. And you know, because you guys had the same stuff happening out there. They're awful, all horrible, racist laws. And we did everything. We did the advocacy, we went to the city attorneys, we went to the council member. We even had neighborhood councils, and we decided, we ran a slate and we got ourselves voted in democratically, and they still didn't listen to us. We were supposedly the advising board to Mitch O'Farrell, who was the council member at that time. Didn't matter how many things we kept passing, never ever took our advice. And we were like, well, that's wild because we followed the entire set of rules. We even trusted in democracy, and democracy is an imported concept, it's not ours. So I was like, I need to learn something else. This is not working out. In the meantime, my dad, some immigrant folks were able to buy homes in Echo Park, and my dad kept his home. And I was like, man, my dad knows something, he knows not that, he has some very important knowledge. So that's when I cried and I decided to get my realtor license after crying a lot. Because I realized that we also, even though, so this is the knowledge part, even though I do not believe in the privatization of land, because that is really inappropriate, and again, it's an external policy that was placed here, I knew that we needed to learn the rules. And a little bit more background on what I mean about that is that, you know, the Americas is a name that was actually picked by a German cartographer of an Italian explorer, Amerigo Vespucci. And that's important to know because that's a newer name to what in 1982, and I learned this from Luz Maria, who's a UCLA professor actually, that was at the convening of 1982, where we decided to call and rename this place Abya Yala to its correct name. Abya Yala is a Kuna name of the Panama people, and it covers from Alaska to Patagonia because we were always one people. That's how giant of a people we were, which is why it's no surprise we have amazingly giant pyramids. Some of the most largest, densest in the world are here because we were that giant of people. And so conscious real estate for me is we really have to understand first that history. We're in Abya Yala lands. We are not in America, we're in Abya Yala lands. We're also specifically in Turtle Island, even more so, more nuanced, but yeah, that's an English name. So I think that's important. And it's also important to know that the concept of privatization is a theory that somebody brought outside. The theories a lot of our communities had in Abya Yala were, everybody say Abya Yala. Say it again, and out. That's powerful. Yeah, the theories of Abya Yala that many of our communities had from Alaska to Patagonia were who worked the land, that is your land. Like you have land because you're gonna work it, because you're gonna sustain yourself in it. It's a very different concept. I think there was like some fear of the commons, you know, yeah, people know, I'm not gonna go down that line, but I think most of us are forced to take some poli-sci 101 on it. But we had a different concept. It was like you work the land, you feed yourself off the land. Like that is the main concept. Of course, now, because of things changing and being imposed onto us, I decided, well, I might as well get my realtor license too, because I should learn how we can do that, because we could still, if we buy the land, then we can actually work the land as well for our own good. And so the first house I ever sold was to my friend Miguel, my friend named Miguel, and he now has a home in East LA, Calcasita del Barrio Este. And it's really awesome because he hosts a bunch of community events in the back, and yeah, it's privately owned, yes, but the fact that he could create a wedge and oasis in the community, that's who I want to represent. So I'm not your typical cold call realtor, like, you want to sell? I don't do that. I just want to work with people who are genuinely interested. So we also bought, I am in the San Joaquin Valley, and we invested in Tulare County. We bought 40 acres there because there's water, but we really seek to protect it because a lot of the land, if you have spent enough time in San Joaquin Valley, a lot of it's been ravaged by the agricultural practices in the livestock business that has really decimated how beautiful it once was. If you look at the ancient pictures of how the San Joaquin Valley was, it was a 40-mile wide river. People know this? Like, that's just right here. Most people don't know that. And there was even like small whales and small sharks in here. Like, it was incredible. It was beautiful. So anyways, our efforts is also to be like, well, we can be a wedge and help out in the community here because we have roots here. It's not like we just randomly chose it. Our elder has grandkids from the res, so we're connected. But anyway, so that's what conscious real estate is, and it is looking at alternative forms of ownership. When my dad was able to buy it in the 1980s, I mean, he was doing regular work that most people did, and that, again, he came undocumented. So it's not like he has the top notch, but we all know the market values and the winding gaps of inequality in our incomes. My dad was able to afford a home, and now a lot of us have to think differently because most of us millennials are like, our parents are like, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, I can't buy a house. Have you seen the mortgage rates? and the price of the house? But we can think of collective ways of buying, which is amazing because I just saw in PBS, they're having this really cool series that marries science with indigenous knowledge. And they're talking about polar bears. And polar bears are traditionally known to hunt individually, so much that they would bite the cub eventually to be like, cub, you're on your own, right? Well, we've heard of that? Yeah, that at some point polar bears are like, bye kid, like you take care of yourself, I take care of me, because they had single territories, but the scientists just found, and I can't remember the name of the river, where the polar bears for the first time in recorded history, in any glyph, in any document, that they are now hunting collectively. Because they can't survive any other way because of the climate change, which is sad, but also amazing. And I thought that's a good inspiration for us, because I was like, if they can collectivize their efforts to survive, we can also collectivize our efforts to take care of our land. Okay, we don't believe in buying land, but we can believe in buying it collectively and then taking care of it collectively, right? Like that's things we could do, which requires a lot of trust and communication, but it can be done. And this society has taught us to that American dream, single home, single family, single car, single whatever. But maybe we gotta think differently, because that's not been working. That's been quite literally devastating climate change. We specifically in this land, right? It's like, what do we consume? And I know there's some big statistic. We're like, what, 5% of the world? Who knows that big statistic? And then we consume like 80% of all production, something like that. Yeah, what's that? You guys know? Does anybody know the statistic off the? But essentially, right? You know the big one. We're like the tiniest one consuming like most of the world's production. So it's like maybe we should be living collectively. So that's what conscious real estate is. So if you want to talk to me more about that, I've even done referrals for friends out in Michigan to be like, hey, I want to make sure the realtor's actually watching for you and not, just making money, which it's important, but also like you should care about people's money. So the next one is mindful mobility. I've done this one a lot, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this one because this is all related to the bicycle, active transportation, busing, and all that work that I've done for a long time. And I talked about it a little bit at the beginning with the bike stuff, but I continue to do that work today. And a little bit less so now as a national bicycle coach, which is super geeky, but I am. But I still do that and I still work, and I've worked with some folks in here still to do some analysis on that. And this is me being a bicycle coach with the Pascua Yaqui reservation. So, because bicycles are still a really healthy tool and they're combating diabetes with it. That's why they decided to do that. And the one that I feel like I really want to leave off with is, well, I'm renaming it after this weekend, is the heart work. So it's having those really tough conversations in your community, in your organizations, in different, even in friendships, just that hard work. So this one here is actually in Oxnard. We're riding our bikes to Oxnard because they tapped me and said, hey, our board's predominantly white, but our staff, they got a special grant for this special community, but now there's a mismatch, right? So then how do we use knowledge to kind of help fill those gaps to make the communication better? This is another group. This is Justice for My Sisters, if anybody's heard them, but they asked us to come in to do, and this wasn't so much about power dynamics. It was more about accountability and communication amongst them. Here's a transition with John Yee, who left LA Walks, who's now running for assembly member. That's why he's leaving here, actually. He's running in LA locally. But yeah, it was also about like when somebody leaves an organization that you don't just go by, but you really thank them for their work and their time and their expertise. You really, really, really want to thank them, and that it's felt heartfelt so that nobody ever feels like just another number running through. Because we do that even in nonprofits, right? So thinking about that, here's another one of us teaching like musical instruments to the kid. That one's really fun for me. And that's my wife back there. And then actually this one was from the Arrowhead. The Arrowhead came up so much, but apparently they were talking about it again this year, which I didn't know, but I heard that they're talking about this 2020 talk that Tamika and I and a few other folks did. And part of the hard work was that we were being brutally honest. I didn't want to just sit there and say something that didn't feel right for it to just stay in my body. And that's part of the hard work, because it makes it really uncomfortable for the person saying it, for sure, but maybe for the person hearing, because they're not used to it. Maybe it's like mind blowing. Maybe they're like, what? I'm a bad person? And it's like, no, you're not a bad person. You just need education. More education, that's all. And if you're willing and you want to make the change, then that's where the hard work is. So anyways, I wanted to end off with that. And here's my contact. I'm going to send some cool little stickers because I heard that Susan's going to give points to whoever puts it on their water bottle or laptop. The stickers are cool, like you said. And I'm going to pass those, but thank you also very much. Back. Yes.
You want one? Sure.
I need to switch. Yep. This one to this one. I don't know. Let's try that. Is it on? It might not be.
Oh,
Okay, no, it's okay. Sorry. Okay, hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Maria Ruiz. I am the Associate Director of Outreach and Policy with the Central California Asthma Collaborative. We are a 501c3 organization based in Fresno. We have offices all over the San Joaquin Valley, and we're actually in the process of opening our office here in Sacramento. I kind of wanted to talk about not much what I do, but kind of why I do it. You know, when we talk about asthma, we don't really typically think about like transportation. So I want to talk about like a just transition for asthma prevention. So first of all, a little bit about CCAC. So our mission is basically like we aim to provide education, direct services, and build regional capacity, and then advocate for sensible policies that improve health, address inequities, by reducing environmental impacts and emphasizing the prevention and management of chronic disease. And so I'm part of our SIEGE team, or Climate Equity and Environmental Justice team, which I'm the associate director of. And then we do a lot of outreach and policy. We have an air monitoring network, and we do community steering committees to create community emission reduction plans. Here's kind of like a little collage of pictures of us. We had a little like Capitol Day. We also got to tour the Cal EPA air monitoring lab, and that's some of my team. So one of the programs in our SIEGE division is the EV Equity Program. This is something that I'm super proud of. It was basically the project that got me on board with CCAC when I started like 4 years ago with the organization. It was more so a concept, and I guess I don't want to take like too much credit, but this is something that I really got like to lift off the ground, which was super cool because when I got hired, I knew exactly nothing about EVs. I was like, oh, like golf carts, but I guess they liked me so much. They were like, we're not even gonna do like a second interview, because I like off the top of my head, I'm like, there's a lot of people in like coming to Fresno from the Bay Area, from LA, and obviously like with that comes more transportation, more vehicle, more pollution. So I kind of know like the gist of it, and I was like, you know, I don't really know too much about EVs, but I love the environment. I was gonna be a geology major, but I suck at math, so I studied communication. And they were like, you know what, like none of us were really experts on EVs, so we just kind of learned, and I learned, and now I think I know a little bit too much about EVs, and people are like, are you a car girl now? I'm like, no, I just kind of have to know. So our EV Equity Program, we do ZEV outreach and education. We do ride and drives. We actually have a collaborative of partners throughout the San Joaquin Valley. We're actually currently expanding outside of the San Joaquin Valley. But we have something called the CVEC, or the Clean Vehicle Empowerment Collaborative, which is basically like-minded community-based organizations. CCAC is a little bit more corporate, just because we have to be, because we deal with like I'll get into it later, but basically like Medi-Cal stuff. But we have a collaborative of partners that do clean transportation outreach. And then we also, the heart of the EV Equity Program is one-on-one free application assistance to LIDAC, or low-income residents in disadvantaged communities. A little bit of why this program kind of came to be is, for years, our collaborative was doing outreach on the programs. If you're familiar with the EV incentive programs, there was the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program, the California Clean Fuel Award, CVRP, and then depending on where you live, your air district might have one, PG&E, SoCal Edison, and then there's obviously like, manufacturers have their own version of these programs. And so people, we were doing outreach and telling people like, hey, you can get $14,000 down, you can get $14,000 down, but nobody was applying. We're like, why is nobody applying? It's literally free money. And we're like, oh, they don't know how to access these applications. They don't have the technology to make a portal to upload your documents. Like, they don't even have a smartphone. And so we were like, okay, so that's something that we had to address. So my team became that bridge of, we're not just telling you of what is available, we're actually helping you fill out that application, get your income documents ready, get your driver's license scanned, uploaded, and then successfully submit your application. So here's kind of some of my team. This was a ride and drive we had at Fresno City College. I think that day we had 8 dealerships from the San Joaquin Valley come out, over 245 test drives. And this is actually one of our, what is her title now? This is our director of health, who was actually one of our clients when we first started. And then obviously this is like some of the staff from the vehicle peoples. I don't have any text on here, but we have also at CCC our CARES program. It is comprehensive asthma remediation and education services. So as the asthma collaborative, this is kind of like our bread and butter. The SIEGE team is kind of something that came a little bit later, but we do asthma, like home assessments. So if people are having
having like flare-ups and going to the emergency room, doctors basically refer their patients to our CARES team. And then we send out a CHW or a community health worker to kind of identify any triggers in the home and then provide incentives to remediate that. And that could be an air filter, that could be non-toxic cleaning material, that could be financial incentive, that could be an air purifier. So that's our CARES program. We also have our SJV Air network. So we have our own community-based and community-ran air monitoring network. So yes, you can see the air monitoring information on your phone. However, some people don't realize that those big monitors are, you know, they're more in like metropolitan areas, places that are, I guess, frequented in the San Joaquin Valley. Can I, out of show of hands, who has been to the San Joaquin Valley and actually stayed there? So San Joaquin Valley is from San Joaquin County all the way down to Kern County. So not a lot of people. And I'm not knocking anybody, but if you are doing work in transportation and equity, the things that are gonna work here in the Sacramento area or in LA or the coast are not gonna work in the San Joaquin Valley. I urge you to please visit and spend time there because we are constantly left behind when it comes to air monitoring and transportation. So we have our own air monitoring network that people could subscribe to. They get text alerts based off of the air monitor that is closest to them. We also have an app called SJV Air. And this is our team here installing. We install air monitors. I think the BAMs, I think they're like $20,000 that we get, but we install them at schools. So super cool project, SJV Air, sjvair.com, you know, plugging us in there. All right, so to move on, equity and the EV space. So here's some background, if you're not too familiar with it. So CARB implemented something called the Advanced Clean Cars 2 rule in 2022. And basically this mandated that all new light duty vehicles sold in the state have to be zero emission by 2035. This covers passenger cars, trucks, SUVs, with a requirement of 35% of new vehicle sales in 2026 to be electric or hydrogen powered. And then that is going to increase to 100% by 2035. Additionally, the regulations stipulate that automakers, they have to provide a minimum of 8 years or 100,000 mile battery warranty for their vehicles. So according to the University of Michigan, the high pricing of luxury electric vehicles may discourage buyers, obviously, due to initial expenses and energy worries. Individuals with lower incomes struggle to manage vehicle ownership expenses alongside other financial responsibilities. I don't know if they still teach like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but basically if you don't have shelter, you don't have food, you don't have water, you're not gonna be thinking about your polluting vehicle. You're gonna use that car until it basically falls apart. So California introduced incentive programs like down payment assistance programs, after purchase rebates. And despite these equity focused programs and changes, historically marginalized communities still receive significantly fewer rebates. Even with, you have to be 300% of the federal poverty level, you have to live in, you know, this census tract, X, Y, Z. There's still not enough incentives being dispersed in those communities. So I have a comparison here. Merced County, which is part of the San Joaquin Valley, they had a total of 919 rebates throughout the existence of this program. Contra Costa County, 21,000 rebates. So Modesto, you know, has a lot more people that are considered LIDAC or low income and disadvantaged communities, and yet they got the least rebates. So, you know, even with all of these loopholes that are in these programs to really like, I guess, reduce the amount of people that would qualify, for it to only be the people that actually qualify in these communities, still not happening. One thing that I do want to note though is, even though I have this program, EV equity program, electric vehicles are not the kryptonite to the climate solution or the climate crisis. I'm so sorry. But they are part of a multifaceted approach to this climate crisis. The Union of Concerned Scientists believes that electrification on its own isn't enough to combat the climate crisis or clean up our air, but it's a solution that is here and it is starting to make a difference today. And I wanna leave you also with this quote, I say leave you, but I'm not done yet. Exposure to transportation pollution in low-income communities of color is a direct result of redlining. If you're not familiar with redlining, please read on that. And decades of racist government policy that relegated communities of color to areas surrounded by busy roads, freeways, ports, and other freight corridors, filled with high rates of toxic tailpipe emissions. So EVs and health equity. Environmental factors like prolonged ozone and particle pollution exposure can increase the risk of asthma complications. This is a quote from Kenneth Mendez by the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America. Yes, vehicles don't necessarily like spit out ozone, but the chemicals that come out of the smog, they go up into the atmosphere and there's chemical reactions and then we have ozone. So EVs and health equity. This is actually one of the families that we helped through our SJVR network get air monitor to their backyard. So there was a USC study that was published that they noted that as zero emission vehicle adoption rose in a particular zip code, the air pollution levels and asthma related ER visits actually decreased from 2013 to 2019. Local actions for climate change can benefit community health, according to Erika Garcia, who's an assistant professor at USC. This emphasizes the impact of local efforts on public health and encourages policymakers to take action. These researchers also found that while the total ZEBs increased over time, adoption was still considerably low in low resource communities. This is what researchers call also like the adoption gap. So that's disparity points to an opportunity to restore environmental justice in communities that are disproportionately affected by pollution. So electric vehicles, it's not like that movie where that came out, I think it was like in the 90s or early 2000s, where it's like, who killed the electric vehicle? They're here to stay, they're not gonna go away. That transition to electrification is going to happen. So how can we make sure that the communities, especially like the communities that I serve in the San Joaquin Valley, how do we ensure that those are not left behind? So again, I'm plugging our EV equity program because that is, you know, my organization's way of bridging that gap. So how do we create equity in the EV space? Direct services to those interested in actually transitioning to an EV. It's not enough to tell people there's this incentive, go get it. You need to hold their hand. Application assistance, we do that, we decipher documents. You'd be surprised, some people can't really understand the documents that they have. That's why we're there. We triple check their applications. Sometimes the clients are like, I'm so done with you, stop calling me. But I'm like, look, if you wanna get 14K down, you better get this right or you're not gonna get anything. So, you know, we're the ones that get chewed out, but at the end of the day, it's worth it when they drive away in their car. We are that mediator between the community residents and the incentive agencies. There has been times where the incentive agencies have dropped the ball, whether that be they don't file like they don't send the payment on time to the dealership, and then the dealership's harassing the client. So there has been many times where we have had to step in and kind of be that mediator. And breaking down high-tech conversations into bite-sized approaches. There's a lot of jargon in the EV world, where if you tell a resident who stopped going to school in their home country at the age of 12, like in Spanish, like it is crazy. It is crazy, especially when we are expecting them to do these applications and they don't even know what half of these words are. This is like a little like knockoff Mario, basically. You can't really see, but it's like he's like jumping on the little pillars or whatever. That's kind of like how I see our program is like, you know, we're that like little pillar right here, that little bridge to help them get to the other side. You can't see the logo, but it's right there. I'm almost done here. This is actually, I forgot to mention, this is Michael Macias. He was officially recognized as the millionth registered EV owner in California. Happened to be our client. He got to meet Newsom. He drove around in Newsom in his Volkswagen ID4. He actually gave us a shout out on TV, but they cut that out, so rude. I'm just saying that here, you know?
Yeah.
And then this is Cynthia Tovar, she waited on a wait list, I think like 2 years for the incentive programs to open. And the second that they opened, we submitted her application and she got her Tesla. But again, just to elaborate on creating equity in the EV space, the goal really is to create knowledgeable and empowered consumers and then equip these residents with electric vehicles and charger education. And then finally, provide insight on how the programs work, any tips and tricks. Frequently asked questions, you'd be surprised. Some people do not know that you cannot tow an electric vehicle. You have to put it on a flatbed truck or you will F it up. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Again, my name is Maria Reese. I am from Fresno. I have my contact information here, as well as my colleagues, but if you're interested in our work, I have business cards. Feel free to, hit me up. I'm right here.
All right, now we're bringing in somebody remotely, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to add one last thing on with Maria. Maria's been working with the EV Research Center, or will be working with the EV Research Center with another project that's focused on a understanding how these incentives are being operationalized within dealerships. There's a big kind of lack of understanding. You have an individual that is interested in EVs. The outcome is they walk out or they drive out with an EV, but something has to happen in the middle. Usually that means a dealership is involved. And so with Maria's team, we're gonna be working on understanding, maybe deciphering what goes on in that black box as a dealership, because that is where an incentive currently needs to be utilized. So just more work with this program that is coming out of these partnerships through the BJ Leaders Program. So with that, Sochi is on the call, and Sochi unfortunately wasn't able to join us in person. She's been participating virtually throughout this visit, and I'm hoping that she can provide us with some remarks. Sochi,
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
we can hear you.
All right, so I'm trying to open my screen to be full screen. And I can just, let me see if this, okay, I think I got it. Can everyone see now full screen?
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Xochitl Cortez. I'm the executive director and co-founder of Frontline Catalyst. I'm also a proud EJ Leadership Program Fellow. So this presentation is for you all. Please note that unfortunately, in this transition of making sure that I was going to be there in person, and then reality hits, and that's what happens, right? We make plans, but life, no, you're not. Okay, so here goes my youth.
Are we muted?
I don't know.
Here.
So can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Someone muted me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're kind of cutting out though.
Still, even at this moment?
Okay,
No,
you're
right
good.
now you sound good.
Okay, I'll start again. So this presentation is for our Environmental Justice Leadership Program, and to introduce Frontline Catalyst. And why can't, okay, here we go. So our mission is to empower our frontline youth to lead the movement for transformative climate justice. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Frontline Catalyst. Director of Programs and Community Engagement is Marcus Harris. Our program associate in charge of education and organizing is Karina Lopez. And our Cali student coordinator is Angelia Vang. The reason I want to mention this is because nothing that we do is done in isolation. We do it as a team, very collaborative. We also have 4 additional fellows that actually just started last week. They are part of the California Climate Action Corp Fellowship that also Natalie touched on earlier. And they are in charge in our forestry, urban planning, or urban heat island work that we do. And in addition to those individuals, we also have college students facilitators. We have a total of 4 as well. and those facilitators are giving credit by the universities to work in community engaged projects, specifically decolonizing community engagement and research. So props to them. Let's see. So we start by understanding that building power is what we're aiming to do because youth are our future. And without really, they say that the race to leadership is not the race to get there alone. It's how many you bring with you. So Frontline Catalyst is ensuring that the leadership of climate resilience, climate justice is in partnership with our future. And we start by understanding that knowing your history is also to know yourself. And if there's no history, there's no self. And so it's always about transformation. Nothing is fixed. Everything is fluid and moving forward. I'm going to try to play this video, or if someone is able to play it on for me, just so that there's sound.
Yes.
Environmental racism, canaries in the coal mine, Black and brown youth living on the front lines. The Western value system built on extraction and wealth, Indigenous people focus on Mother Nature and environmental health. The philosophy of Inlakesh, si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. We are building a better tomorrow. Next generations can become the best generations because our decisions affect the next 7 generations. Love, rebellion, hope, forged by our hearts, minds, and hands. We will accept no less than clean water, clean air, and clean lands. We are catalysts for change. We are the frontline youth leading the movement for transformative climate justice. We ask you to join us.
En United for Success Academy. También soy líder de Frontline Catalyst. Estoy aquí para cambiar el mundo contigo, para crear un nuevo mañana. ¡Sí se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
I hope the audio were you able to hear the audio?
Yes.
So the person that read that poetry, who wrote and read her poetry was a 6th grader, the same 6th grader that introduces herself in that rally. And if you knew that 6th grader when I met her, shy, didn't want to tell anyone that she was mom, identity crisis, to being this young person, so young, so vibrant, who all of a sudden with this confidence, this desire, this self-determination. And you might ask yourself why and how. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's always our dream to ensure that children are affected in positive ways despite their circumstances and their surroundings. So we offer a climate justice leadership development program for all Title I schools in Oakland. And we also offer different programming for frontline youth in Oakland, ages of 11 to 24 years old, who may not be attending Oakland Unified School District, but still impacted by the SEND redlining racist policies that exist in their community. You have to excuse how this image came up on where I grabbed it from. It was clear, but I'll give you a walkthrough. This is Oakland right here, what's shaded. This is one highway called the 13. This is another highway called the 580. And then this is the 880 that goes over here to the 80. And then this is what is converted to the 24. Well, semi-trucks are not allowed in these areas. Semi-trucks go from the Port of Oakland down South Bay, passing the Port of Oakland. So this is airport, this is the port, all the way down to Sacramento. And what happens during this is that these were policies that said that no semi-trucks were allowed to be on these highways. Yet who lives on the front lines on these flat lands? If you ever go through Oakland, this is all flat. These are all hills, green spaces, beautiful spaces. There's also an economic divide, but there's also a health barrier divide, because it's in these neighborhoods that we have the greatest impact on health concerns. So we focus along the 880 corridor, and we ground our practice in ethnic studies, environmental justice, and indigenous stewardship. Our programs are to confirm or affirm, as Shayla in the video said, clean air, food, water, and healthy communities because they're human rights. And we nurture our leadership in communities that are impacted with systemic inequalities and disciplinary policies emphasizing decolonial healing of both self and home. I think it was Rio who asked if we knew what gang injunctions are. We're very familiar with those. As a matter of fact, one of our closest partner, we're working together, Courage, Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice, was one of the organizations that fought gang injunctions here in Oakland and won. How do we do this? How do we go from the shy Shayla who didn't want to see you in your eyes to all of a sudden she grew to be an advocate, then now an organizer? Well, we realize that there's a lot of intersectional issues that happen with youth. So we go from learner, understanding just the connection to where they're at, to their community, and the issues that are affecting them. Then we make those associations to the impacts of climate change and how it either is going to exacerbate or how the same solutions to healing ourselves and our communities is the solutions to healing and going towards climate justice. And in that process, an evolution happens where they start to become advocates, where they're starting to understand these concepts of decolonialism and capitalism and what does it all mean, and then try to teach them how to effectively express these same notions with their peers and with the community. Then the involvement continues because, again, we emphasize that leadership is not one. Leadership is the we. And how many are you able to bring along so that you're able to really actively engage in partnership and do the power building, understanding those interconnected issues that affects the youth itself, but also use it as a tool to mentor existing youth leaders or the next generation of youth leaders. We engage, these are our pillars. We engage by examining the values of systems and relations, Western culture versus indigenous ways, relationships to the land and the connection to community. Then that's all theory. That's a lot of classroom, but we don't stay in the schools. We actually explore. We go into participatory action where research, their lived experiences included in that research to understand the information that they're being processed with, and then to learn that about in their community. What does it mean in relationship, for example, to air, to soil, to water, to energy, to transportation? And then empower, as in we're constantly having platform and opportunities such that youth can express that power building, to share their knowledge, to be able not only to find solutions, but to present those solutions and to inevitably affect change. Everything is interconnected. That's the wisdom of our Mayan en Lak'ech, which is, tú eres mi otro yo. Se me hago daño. As a matter of fact, if you guys don't mind, read this along with me. Excuse me. How do I go back? Okay. Obviously, I'm challenged here with PowerPoint presentation. Okay, let's see. Let's start all over. Read it with me. Let's try it. Tú
eres mi otro yo.
You
are my other me.
See?
If I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself.
We constantly try to make these connections about when we're doing anything in the community. We always reinforce these value systems. And because our population, specifically in the Fruit Belt, is predominantly Latino, we also recognize that Oakland has a vibrant Black community. starting with the Black Panthers, remember, it's all ethnic studies, it's history, right? So we also understand Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is a ancient African proverb, not sure which tribal it came from, but nonetheless, it is I am because we are. And so those are the notions that those indigenous wisdoms that live within our systems through our DNA. Our DNA has memory. It's not our fault that colonialism happened. It's not our fault that there's US censors that tells us that we are Latino. Well, I don't identify Latino because it doesn't identify to the cultural existence, and my answer is that is. So every person has to understand, like, why do we not feel that connectedness that our ancient ways and indigenous practices do? And so again, it's going back to be in relationship, not only to each other as human beings, because that's just very hierarchical, but it's how are we being in relationship to the land and to everything that's living around us.
Yeah.
So we explore, this is another notion where there was a beautiful Chabot science, and our youth, those balls right here on the middle top, it's their earths that they created. They look very small, but some of them were like, I want all green spaces. Some of them trash, in the oceans to be removed. There was a lot of statements, and they made it part of their exhibit when they did the ribbon cutting with Senator Bonta here. And then they do community gardens. They test right here on the bottom with that camera that you see. This is them being eco-detectives, seeing the sampling of their soils, because the idea is soil, food sovereignty. And they learned that their levels of soils were in the uppers 1,000 parts per million, when the World Health Organization says that there is 0 safe levels. By the way, just as a side note, California says 15, but we need to fight for that because there is no safe level for lead. It causes learning disabilities. And a lot of our youth, if you see the one right next to the black and white one, they did a town hall and they tested the water, they tested the soil in their school, in their parks, and their homes. And I'm sad to tell you that they found is that there was 100% lead contamination in all 3 sources. They were angry, they were upset, they're like, this can't be. So this is them doing learning through exploration. We empower youth to also talk about why they need certain bills to be passed. So yes, they go to the Capitol, they talk on bills like 1374, they talked on bills like 1091, they talk about different bills and what does it mean in relationship to them. And it's very beautiful. This is them enacting that bravery of speaking. Right here next to the picture in the Capitol, there's 3 kids. There's one that has a sign with a peace sign, and there's a little girl next to her with the white shirt. Well, she says, Ms. Cortez, after this field trip, I want to be an attorney. When I first came here, I felt like my body changed. Like I felt like I didn't belong here. Like everyone's in suits and looks all fancy, and like we're like, this is not our space. But in that process, when we were having this conversation, I said, this is paid with public dollars. This is very much your space as anyone else who's here. You belong. But yeah, but they have this security checkpoint. Like, I don't feel safe here. And when this field trip ended, she was like, not only am I going to be an attorney, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to be able to fight and lobby for what's right in our communities. That's our program. Those are our aha moments. All of these different spaces, we take every opportunity from cleaning this is Earth Day, but before Earth Day, they had a learning were around watershed and pollution and how does it affect. So, they're motivated now to go clean and to do some civic engagement in the community. The bottom over here, it's a roundtable of youth talking to their city council members about what they're finding and what solutions, putting it back on the adults, like what's the solution? Right now, they're mobilizing towards a campaign with Oakland Unified School District where they're saying, where's the money? Find the money, bring it back. So some of the highlights of our youth leadership is that here we had said we were aiming for 150 students to serve in programs. We ended up serving over 205, it was 205 to be exact, out of Title I schools. In addition to that, we served over 400 students in single event programs. And our single event programs are community-driven program, community science programs. There's testing things, they're cleaning up the streets, they are door knocking. So I have to elaborate that. It's not just a pachanga and everyone showed up. They were actively engaged. And so the 3 years that we've been around, we've developed the Climate Justice Leadership Development. We've done Oakland Youth Advancing Climate Justice, a pilot program. We've developed Frontline Voices, which is a new pilot where youth are using their lived experiences and creating digital storytelling videos. Every year we've done Eco Woke Summers, which they are eco detectives in their community. We have partners with 4 different schools within Oakland Unified School Districts where we're actually running our curriculum. However, we are engaged with 100% of the Oakland Unified School Districts through our Saturday programs, which is separate. We were fortunate to receive an in-kind donation from the Urban Strategies Council, who has given us office space for 6 months. We'll take it. We didn't have a home. A lot of it is done in where we can, when we can. We've had new staff, Marcus and Karina. I'm very proud because for a long time, it was very difficult when this was just a labor of love. In other words, nobody was getting paid to do this work. We have a lot of teamwork and relationships with organizing partners, and we are constantly updating our program structures when we hold youth listening sessions, which is how our programs are informed and modified. I'm not going to go on this video. I'm just going to play it while I just give you I don't think the video is going to come through, but this is one of the Oyaka Eco programs, and students had reflections about the program and what they did. How did they learn about the summer program? We try to make opportunities where we're constantly hearing from youth, where they're informing what's going on, what did they like, what would they like to see different, what was your greatest impact? So it goes on and on. So I'm not going to play it for this purpose of time, but it's just, this is how we do our surveys. It's not just an email we sent them, and it's very narrative. It's very taking a lot of detail, and it does take a lot of time. But you know what? And the clock of the world, what is the time in the clock of the world, in the words of Grace Lee? And they are the time, and we have to slow down to ensure that the leadership is developed, because they are, again, our future. I didn't mean to do that, sorry. I'm almost done, I promise. So climate, yes?
Mind if we just take a quick moment, because it's about time for us.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, we would love to get your slides so we can share them out to folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll go ahead and send that. I think I gave you guys the different, the link for it. So I just wanted to, I'm just going to quickly say, this is their project. This is their things. We just put it into highlights, and it's very active and an interactive year so that it's always youth focused. And it's how do we support, their initiatives, and that we're constantly looking for that. So if anyone in the room is inspired, please know that this is some of the support that we're needing. And if there's other ways that you think you can support further, please contact me via email or my phone number here.
Thank you so much. I know the folks are still here. I'm gonna pass it back to Susan. If anybody has questions, I'm sure we're still gonna get on for a few minutes. And then,
Yeah, just so many thanks to our speakers today for sharing that really inspirational work, and that message that it really takes to community to make things happen. We're so happy that you're a part of our community here at LTS Davis, at least for the whole part. So anyway, thank you and welcome. You all know what you need to do, those of you who are enrolled, right? Okay, and I think we're gonna post a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
links to these organizations, there's a video we need to do.
yes.
So I'll put all that stuff up in Canvas for you all to have. Again, thank you.
Thank you all.